In this tutorial, you'll learn to do a sky replacement on a panning wide shot in Fusion. I have this shot from ActionVFX that we can use. I also have a still image here that you can download as well. This is from the Volume 2 Puffy Clouds Panorama Pack. It's full of these ultra-wide images we have. This is one of the smaller variations that's set to 1080 here, but these are specifically made for shots like this, where when you need to do a sky replacement, that you have this long tracking shot, and so you have a lot of real estate to cover. So what better than a very wide panorama? First thing we're going to do is set our footage here. We're going to bring in a Planar Tracker. Move this over here. I'll go to the very first frame, and then I'm just going to draw a box around the horizon here. I only really care about catching anything in the background. Anything in the foreground isn't really going to do as much good, so I mostly just want sky and the mountains. I'm going to set frame 0 as the reference. I'm going to set perspective, and I just care about translation and rotation right now. And then I'm going to track forwards. And about halfway through, we start losing a lot of our tracking data. So right around the 55 mark, I'm just going to take our tracking area here and widen it out so that it starts tracking more data as the frame opens up. And then from there, I'm going to track forwards again. And then I think if we want, we can go again about frame 100. And then we can open this up again, just a little bit more. Track forward. Okay. So now we have a decent tracking across the whole panning of the shot. So with that, we can just go ahead in our tracking data here and just do create planar transform. I like to keep tracking nodes over here on the side, and then you can throw in the planar transforms into the composite so that you don't have to keep looping your footage back through the planar tracker. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna bring over the image. So the first thing we'll do, we'll just run this through the planar tracker and then merge it back over our footage and then see what we're dealing with. Okay, it looks like it is tracking the shot. So now let's go ahead and figure out the right size and position it needs to be. So after the sky image, I'm going to add a transform. And then on our merge, I'm going to just bring the blend down so that we can see through it. I'm going to open this up so we're just looking at one image here. So the transform, I'm going to start at the very first frame because we know this is the frame all the way as far left as our frame is going to go. And then I'm going to select our transform. And we want the horizon to be right about at the bottom of our image. And then I'm going to move it all the way left so that we know we have as much image to the left as we can possibly use, so that as we pan right, it continues on. So it looks like that is actually covering a lot of our screen already. Yep, the edges the edge never really shows, so I think we can even scale this down a little bit more just to see how much we can get out of this. So I'm going to scale it down, and then again move it over to the left, and then let's see if we ever find the edge of frame here. Nope, still don't. So I think this will work for our shot. We can see that the horizon doesn't quite line up, so let's go ahead and just move that down until it matches with it. So hitting play, it looks like it's tracking along quite well. The next thing I'm going to do is something that really sells sky replacements, is trying to keep at least a little bit of the original sky in there, right? We have this really big, bright, white sky. Not a ton of color, and it has nice clouds in it, but we're assuming we're going to change these. So as soon as you drop our new one over, I mean, it's very different, right? Like very different colors, very different contrast. So what we can do here, let's blend it in with the original sky a little bit more. And so I'm going to grab a rectangle mask here and pipe it into the image. And then if we bring up a second view here and look at it, I want to widen this out so that it opens and covers the full thing, and then we're going to slide this up, and we're going to feather the bottom out. And so what we want to happen here is we add enough feather that it blends in nice with the real footage. so that when we look at it, we want the horizon to blend in with the real horizon. And right now we're seeing the hard edge, so I think I might go through here and just push the rectangle up a little bit, and then I might turn the feather down. That might be too much feather. Okay, let's find that line. Let's feather it about 0.012, and then I'm just going to push this down in the horizon until they meet, and then back off a little bit. I'm just trying to get rid of this hard line, and then we can feather out just a little bit more. So at this point, we have a pretty decent track, and it's semi-blended in to our shot. From there, let's just go and see let's get our foreground back on top of it. So we can get the building here, the mountains, get that pushed back in front, and then we'll see about compositing the color of the sky in a little bit more. I'm going to make a Luma keyer and pipe our original footage into it and send that to the view up here. Already, it's doing a really nice job. And then I'm just going to tighten up the highs and lows to bring in the sky a little bit more, because we are going to use this as a matte for all of our foreground elements here. If you go to your viewer here, you can change this over to alpha and just look at black and white. And then scrub through. What we're really worried about more than anything is getting these foreground objects. And I'm not super worried about some of the sky in the background being half gray, half white. I think that's where, like I was saying, having some of the sky still poke through helps the composite a little bit more. So let's find the happy medium here. So go back, and what we're going to do is just take this and pipe it into the mask input of our merge. And that is going to see that we have our stuff popped in front now. That's going to put the foreground in front of our sky. So this is still looking pretty cheesy, just from the amount of color we have. And I'm seeing a little bit of haloing on some of the stuff here. We have the mask that goes into our sky. We have the transform. So let's just make some room here. I'm going to add a color corrector node just before our transform. And this is the very first thing I do is go to my options, and I click the checkbox for pre-divide post-multiply. Okay, so in the color corrector, let's source our footage up here. We have a very bright sky, and ours has a ton of contrast and not a lot of brightness to it. So let's go into our color corrector. Inside of the master, I changed, I put the lift at 0.361, and I pulled the gamma down to 0.669. So right now we have a pretty solid track. We have a brand new sky in here. I think the next step is let's see what we can do about this object over here. Okay, so yeah, in the Luma keyer, we're just going to go in here and open this up to 0.744 on the low and then 0.972 on the high. It's giving us more detail on this right side of the little tower here. And then I think what I don't like on the left side, I'm just going to add a mask. So if we're looking over here on this Luma keyer, I am just going to make a big white mask that just lives on the left side of frame. Just open this up here. Holding Alt, letting go, and let's make it a garbage mask. And then give it a very large feather. And then I'm going to uncheck this while the mask polygon is selected so that it doesn't animate if I decide to change it later. And then I also think something that might help here, let's open this up a little bit more. And I think I can take this Planar Tracker transform data, and then I'm going to paste it and put it in between the polygon. And then now the polygon is going to move with the camera so that it's only masking off that left side that I don't like. Which I think I'm going to open this up just a bit more. Cool. This is a very quick sky replacement in Fusion. And what we did here is we took our footage and we tracked it in a Planar Tracker. We took the Planar Tracker and made a create planar transform. And then we took our image that we want to replace it with. We added a mask onto the very bottom of it. We did some color correcting on a color corrector node to get it to match the shot more. We added a transform node so that we could reposition it where we wanted it, and then at the very end of that stack, we put the planar transform export from the Planar Tracker. And then we refined the Luma keyer here to add the foreground elements back and front, and then also keep a little bit of the sky integrated into the shot to help sell the sky replacement. We were able to select part of the Luma keyer and then add our tracking data in between that to the polygon so that it follows the camera as well.